Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you for all the support that our project Render My Podcast has received. We are thrilled to announce that our second Q&A session still features the best talent in the industry. We are delighted to introduce our second special guest for this series. She's a renowned 3D artist and illustrator based in Germany with a wealth of experience and a strong focus on character design. She has collaborated with prestigious clients such as Adobe, Disney, Logitech, and many others. Please welcome Meike Schneider. Welcome, Meike.
Hello.
Well, first of all, thanks a lot for being here, for taking the time. I know that you're a pretty busy person, so we really appreciate that the opportunity. And to start off, I want to ask you to say something about yourself that I didn't say in the intro, so the people that may don't know you get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for having me. I am Meike and I'm a 3D artist. I'm a character designer and illustrator, and I'm based in Germany, in Cologne, at least around Cologne in that area. And I work for actually all sorts of different projects. I'm freelancing and I do like children's books, packaging designs, toy designs, and even fashion design. There's like so many different areas where I work in, and this is actually what makes my job so cool because it's like you have so many different projects, and I have worked with clients like you already said, Disney, Logitech, My Best Book, and a lot of other different publishers. And yeah, it's
Okay.
basically.
Okay, to break the ice a little bit, I want you to say three random things about you. Doesn't have to be work related or your career, just anything that pops in your mind.
I'm a crazy chicken lady because I have chickens and I love chickens. I have everything with chickens in my house. um, I love animals in general. Um, Random things. What else? Let me think. I love interior design. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's basically it.
Okay. If you had to define like your career in three moments, in three milestones, what do you think those will be?
Those would be first of all the part of where I went to 3D school, because this is like where my career actually started, where I learned the fundamentals of 3D. Um, I'd say then probably the part where I got my first job after the education in the first studio I worked at, and then actually shortly after that I started with freelancing, and since 2023 I'm full-time freelancing, so this would probably be the third milestone, I'd say, because it's
Okay.
definitely something different.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll get there, but I really want to ask you, when did you start like drawing or finding a passion for it so you ended up making a career? When did it start?
Huh, probably since I can hold a pencil in my hand pretty long. I have been drawing ever since I can hold a pencil in my hand. I was always a very creative kid. Not just drawing, I loved like building stuff, designing things, being creative, doing DIY projects and stuff. I was always super creative. And when I was younger, I started with more traditional stuff. Basically, I only did traditional art and I experimented a lot. I did oil paintings, I did portraits, very different stuff from what I do now, actually. But I kind of like that I experimented so much because it's easier to find your style if you try a lot of things. And I would say I really got more professional around the age of 15 or something like that, because that was when I had my very first small commissions, but very small commissions, like from private people. that just asked me, "Can you draw me this or that?" And I was okay. And this is how it actually started. I was still very young, and I had my first exhibition also for artworks that I created. But still, back then, my art looked a lot different than now because I always drew the stuff that I really liked. For example, I had a time where I went dancing as a hobby, and I drew a lot of dancers, which is totally different to what I do right now. But
Okay.
yeah, this is basically how it started. Um, and then when I went to 3D school, actually, I started kind of finding the style that I am working in right now. Because when you work in 3D, um, you kind of go more into animation, and this is where I found like this more Disney Pixar inspired art style that I'm currently having.
Okay. Uh, I'm really fascinated of art in general, of designers, of illustrators, 3D artists, because I can't draw anything. Like if you give me a pen, I can't do it. And I want to know how your brain worked when you were a kid, and in your journey since now, till now. Sorry, uh, like were you capable of visualizing something in your head and then taking a pen and actually drawing it, uh, actually draw it, or it's just you start drawing and you don't really know what is going to happen next?
I think I kind of can't remember because I was so young, but I just had the passion for painting. And I think if you have a passion and if you like something so much, you do it daily. You do it so often that you get better at it and you start observing and you learn from observing. I think that's the main part to get better at drawing anyway, because you like need to observe every little detail. That's also important for 3D animation. You need to observe everything you see and understand how are things built. And of course, at a young age, I was not capable of doing this, but it came over the years slowly and I got better
Okay.
at it. At first, I started like looking at pictures I liked and I tried to recreate the pictures. And then step by step, I started understanding how are shapes built, how are the human proportions built. And
Okay.
yeah, that's basically how it developed. But overall, I would say it's definitely passion and sticking to it and not giving up.
Okay, I think that that answer lets me ask you the next question, because your followers actually had a little bit of a debate when we asked them to say things that they want to ask you, and some of the debate was if it was talent or practice. Do you think that yeah, drawing and making a career out of it comes from practice or from a natural talent since you were born?
I don't like the word talent at all because I
Okay.
really think it's about practice and about sticking to it. I feel like as I'm a teacher at a school and I work with a lot of students, and I can see that some people are giving up way too early in their career. They're so quickly frustrated about not making progress, and I think it's important to still like focus on what you like to draw and not giving up and taking small steps when you work on things and not trying to like if I had never drawn, I would not start drawing a human body directly. I would start small and learning the fundamentals first, going step by step. But if you take like all tasks at once, then it's gonna be kind of hard to achieve good results immediately. So I would say
Okay.
there's surely a little bit of talent, and I think I feel like my talent is more like having the passion for art and the motivation to keep working hard on my art and my art style. But overall, I would say it's definitely practice. Practice. I drew so much in my entire life, like
Okay.
practice.
Uh, for those aspiring illustrators and 3D artists that are just like starting out and they haven't figured out what's the first step they should take, what do you think that's what's the first step they should take? And if you want to share any tips for them.
I would say the first step would be to kind of figure out where you want to go, career-wise especially. You don't need to know like exactly where you want to go, but you need to like know, do I want to work for a 3D studio? Do I want to go into illustration? Should it be children's books? So you kind of have like a path to go and prepare a portfolio for. Because if you do everything, you can't do everything perfectly good. It's better to like focus on one topic probably to be really good at that one. And if you're starting out, I think in today's time there are so many resources. Like back then when I studied 3D animation, there was like probably half of it. It's like crazy what the internet has to offer today. And there's a lot of courses you can take, and most of them are for
Okay.
free, even on YouTube. There are so many resources, and I think some people also get overwhelmed by the amount of resources out there because sometimes you don't know what is good and what is bad. But I think if you do your research, it's not too hard to figure that out. And if you struggle with yeah, kind of setting yourself some sort of curriculum to learn, then it's probably easier for the person to visit a school where they have a structure, where everything is sorted into topics and you learn things from the fundamentals to the best level you can. And I think every person has to decide that for themselves because we all learn different. And I'm personally more like self-taught artist because I have always been drawing and I just taught myself. But over the years, I started like watching tutorials, and then I did this 3D education. And these things that I learned there, I still use them, even though I don't work as much in 3D anymore as I did a few years ago. It was still very important for me to learn these things. And
Okay.
yeah, I think you kind of have to figure out in which direction you want to go.
Did you know that freelancing was the direction you wanted to go since a long
No,
time, or that was unexpected?
it was actually unexpected. When I was in 3D school, my dream was actually to go to the States and work at Disney Animation. That's probably the dream of most artists, but that was my goal. But it kind of changed along the way when I got my first job, because I started taking commissions on the weekends. Because I was always that person that had a website and was very online. I tried to post my artworks everywhere, and people started seeing my work, and so I got commissions in. And I decided to start working on the weekends and take some small commissions. And then I noticed like, oh wow, I get so many commissions. I think I can like work a little less in my full-time job and do some more commissions. And that's where I started reducing working hours at my full-time job. And I slowly built that up. Like I reduced to 4 days, then to 3 days. Then I was just in a part-time position until I got to be a freelancer. And I think that was the best that could happen because it was the most secure way for me. Because freelancing is totally different. It is totally different
Were,
because
were
you don't have.
Yeah, were you scared when you took that step?
A little bit, but it wasn't so scary because I was already in a part-time position where I worked a lot less than I used to in my full-time job. But still, there is like health insurance that you have to pay for on your own. You don't get a monthly income, so you have to be prepared. You have to put money aside to be sure that if there is 1 or 2 months or even more where you don't earn any money, that you are able to survive. Especially if you have like a house like me, it's kind of
Full of
crazy.
chickens.
You have to be so careful. And if you have so many animals and pets like me, you got to be prepared and have something aside. So it was kind of scary for me because I knew I
Okay.
really had to be careful when I go in that direction. And I can't say it was always easy. There were definitely times that were also hard, but I think there is always a way to like push through these times. Because sometimes I had clients where I worked like 3 months on a project, which is kind of a long time, a time where you don't earn any money, and if you don't put money aside, you're gonna have a problem for sure. But yeah, I think planning ahead is so important when you freelance and putting money aside. I always say like put money aside for like 6 months to be sure. Then you won't
Okay.
have any problems if you don't get clients. Also, it's like a very different kind of working because you have to schedule your day on your own. There's not a boss who's telling you what to do, or you don't have like fixed tasks that you have to do. You are your own boss. You have to like sort your day the way you want to, which can be very hard for some people, I guess. But I
It,
personally love it.
yeah, but in that sense, I think one of the hard things of freelancing is actually having a safe and healthy schedule. How many hours do you work? Like, have you had that figured out, or were you in some days do you work a lot of hours, or how does that work?
It's so hard to find a balance sometimes because it depends on projects for me. Sometimes when I have two projects at the same time, I do a lot of overtime. Sometimes I work in the evenings, sometimes I work on the weekends. But even if this is like a very hard time for me in those months, I try to take off after that. For example, now that Christmas is over, I took off for like 2 weeks over Christmas and then I went on vacation because I just needed a break after all these projects. And I think that's very important because you can easily lose inspiration if you go too crazy with working. I feel like I had a
Okay.
time last year, I think around May or so, where I had health issues and where I had so much overtime that I was kind of so tired and I was so uninspired. And I really needed a long break. And I think having a balance
Okay.
is super important. And I still have to work on my balance, to be honest. But I try to get better at it and take some more time off here and there. But
Okay.
yeah.
How do you like do you select the projects you work on in terms of having like a maximum of projects at the same time to work, like to not lose inspiration or not like burn out yourself? How do you select the projects you will work this month, for example? Do you have a maximum of projects, or
Yeah, I always like check with the client how much work the project is, and I'm kind of experienced in drawing children's books, which is like the biggest kind of projects I usually get in, because they take like 3 to 4 months per book, depending on the pages, of course, but it's usually one of the biggest projects I have. And if I know I have children's books in, I can only do like two children's books in half a year. More is not possible for me because then I still have the possibility to do like small commissions and smaller projects, like things
okay,
that take me a week or a few days only. That's possible in between. But personally, I don't like to take more projects because I feel like it's really hard to switch between projects. Because when I do children's books, I want to be like 100% in that story and feel the characters. And it's so hard to switch between books sometimes. Sometimes I have to do it, but it can be kind of hard.
okay. Do you have a like a favorite project? The project you feel the most proud of?
Yeah, sure. I have actually a few projects I really like. I have my art book that I made just last year. It came out in September, which is about character design. This is currently the project I'm most proud of because it was so much work. And that was actually during the time where I was so exhausted last year because it was so much work and so much more work than I expected, actually. Writing all those texts and putting all the information I have about character design into this book was so much work. Um, but overall, I would say I like the last children's book I did, which is not it's not published yet, but it's coming out in March, and it's one of the projects I'm very proud of because
Okay.
I think it has a kind of different art style than I used to draw in. It's a little bit different, and I don't know if people will recognize my style, but it's a little bit different. But I do kind of like the challenge of trying to draw in a little bit different style than I usually used to do.
Okay. How did that change that you like first started your career in 3D and then switched entirely to illustration to 2D? What happened?
I have to say, I still love working in 3D. It's not that I don't like it or something like that. It was during the time where I had my job in a 3D studio. We were a company where we worked with a lot of packaging design, product design. So most of the stuff I did was creating photorealistic projects, and I enjoyed that too. But I felt like I'm this kind of creative person who wants to invent something new. I I like to do things that aren't real, that are like fictional, and I like to invent my own characters. And I felt like it was still fun to do these things, but it wasn't like fulfilling me 100%. So that
Okay.
was the point where I kind of decided to switch to D. Also, it was because I got so many requests from clients that wanted 2D projects, and it kind of came out of nowhere, actually. I didn't plan to go into illustration. It just happened, and I went with it. And then I started social media. I think that was roughly around that time. And I started posting my drawings on social media. And I got so motivated when I saw that so many people started following me and they started liking my work. And then, of course, I got a couple of jobs from social media as well, because most clients found me over social media. And then I was already into that illustration scene, and it was, it
Okay.
was, it was working nice. And then I thought I just keep doing it.
Okay. Do you think like for a freelancer, but also to create a personal brand nowadays? How do you find social media useful? Like, do you think it's the only way to do it, or it's just a way of on on? There are many ways, and social media is just one of them.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of other ways too, but I think it's easier if you like try to stick to one or two ways to yeah, try to find clients, because if you do too much, it's hard to like focus on something, especially with social media. You have to be online, and you have to post every day almost in today's time to get new followers, to have people see your work, which is super hard. And especially as an artist, I think it's very hard because you have to like draw so many illustrations so you can post every day, which is crazy. I mean, there are other ways than just drawing to be active in social media, but overall for me it was a good way to find clients, because I didn't plan to become an influencer or something. That wasn't the goal. I just wanted to share my artwork, and it just came along the way, and I just took the chance, which is
You,
sometimes I think we just have to take chances. When we see things
yeah.
work, we have to go with the flow, and that's what happened to me. But I think there are other ways that work well too. Like you can have a website and do blog posts, for example, and write interesting stuff about your work, and probably a client will read your blog post or find you via Google or something. I think there are so many ways to find clients. It's good to have more than one, probably.
Yeah.
But I would not try to be like everywhere, because then you can't do everything perfectly.
Do you enjoy it, social media?
I do, to a certain point, because I personally don't share so much about my private life. I mostly share my art, and this is something I really enjoy. I, of course, show a little bit about my house and my pets and stuff, but nothing more than that. And I think that's like the way I like it. I can decide where I set boundaries and how much I want to show. And that is probably very important when you want to go that route, that you decide what you want to show, and so that you don't get annoyed by it, because it can be hard to post every day, to show your face every day. Sometimes I have days where I just don't want
Yeah.
to post anything.
It's
And
a full-time job, right?
It is like
Yeah.
really, especially in today's time where you have to edit reels every day.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You have to write a caption, you have to film, you have to edit. It's crazy. And then you have to design a cover picture and this and that. It's really
Yeah.
crazy. It's becoming a real full-time job. And sometimes I am also struggling whether I want to do social media more than I do it right now. But then I also have these cool client projects. And I feel like when I work on client projects, it has so much more value to me because I can work as an artist. Of course, on social media, I can also do my personal projects, but I feel like client projects sometimes they force me to learn, they force me to do something new, to go out of my comfort zone. And when I post on social media, I just post stuff that I like. I draw things that are totally in my comfort zone, and that's why I think clients are so important just to grow as an artist.
How do you take criticism? I mean, you are an artist, but you are exposed on social media. Your work is exposed. Also, you have client projects. How do you take criticism?
It can be kind of hard sometimes. Always depends how criticism is told, but I remember when I started out and I had my first 2 or 3 commissions, it was kind of hard seeing people judging my work and saying, oh no, we don't like this at all, or we want to go, like I usually create 5 to 10 options for a character, and then I let the client choose what they like best, and they can like mix and match elements until we find the final design. But at the beginning, this was kind of hard because sometimes they picked designs I don't like, and I was like, no, I want to go with this one. And it's so hard to like letting go of that and just freeing yourself from falling in love with your illustrations. Because sometimes you're like, I just want this one to be picked, and it's so hard to then continue with another illustration. And I kind of had to learn that to kind of even when the client picks one of the choices I wouldn't choose, to make it better than the one that I would have chosen, which is kind of a
Okay.
challenge, of course, but it helped me to deal with the criticism that you get. And I think
Okay.
you should never take it personally. That's probably the most important thing I can tell people. Um, just try to become better and make the best out of the design the client chooses.
Okay. Moving to another topic. A lot of people were curious about your shop, like Meike Schneider Arts. How did
Yeah.
that start? Like, when did you decide to start that project?
I think that was during my when I started out with social media with Instagram. During that time, I was so extremely motivated during that time because I was starting out as an artist, and I started with digital painting. Before that, I had only drawn traditional, and I saw all these possibilities you have with the digital painting. Like you can create products from your digital paintings, you can print them. All these things are harder to do with traditional work. Like you can reproduce traditional work that easily. So that was when I started slowly to create products. I started by getting a good printer, a fine art printer. Started printing my favorite illustrations, and it started really slow. Like my shop was not that thing that was super amazing from the first day on, and I didn't sell like 100 items or something. It was something that came super slowly. I just started it as a hobby, like by the way, while I was doing social media. And during that time my followers also started growing, and then of course I had more clients while my Instagram was growing. And I had the chance to like integrate more items to my shop. Like I started out with prints, and then I went to like pins and stationery and whatever I have, like all the different things. But you need to like have the money to produce all these things first, because you have to pay them in advance and then you sell them. So when you're starting out, it's probably hard to pay for all these products. because you want to get a lot of quantity for these products so you get a good price so you can resell them, which is sometimes
Yeah.
hard if you're starting out. But I kind of like did this slowly, and I did it, by the way, I didn't like try to only rely on my shop. It was an extra income stream, which was nice to have, and I slowly built it up. But I never expected it to be like the thing from day one.
Okay. Um, you've worked on so many things, but I want to know what's your favorite part of the creative process. Like, when do you really enjoy your work?
I think my favorite part is the part where I design the characters. That's like the first stage actually, where a lot of changes are happening, a lot of testing and trying out. But also, like, one of my favorite parts is like color palettes. I love color palettes and working with colors and trying out so many different ideas, especially like the things that don't come to my mind at first. I really like to experiment and maybe make the hair look different than I first had in my mind. And when I work with clients, they usually have a certain color theme in mind, but I also try to like give them more options so they also see something totally different. Because sometimes they be like, "Oh, this is actually really cool. Like I had something else in mind, but I really like your take. It's more like unique, maybe." Or and that's the part I really like because I see like I can convince people with some other ideas that they don't have in mind at that stage. So coloring is definitely one of my favorites.
Okay. Actually, some of your followers asked about how did you create or select those color palettes? Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. um, I think it's like I have certain palettes that I really like. I like warm palettes. So when I pick colors, I always try to go with that theme. Sometimes I also use colder colors, but I like to go with like pastel colors, like very soft colors overall. Um, I know a lot of people have a struggle choosing colors in the beginning because I see that with my students too. When they choose color palettes, they use like very saturated and bright colors. They don't try to like reduce the brightness or the saturation. And sometimes it's nice to have like a dominant color and then also some muted colors. And that is probably the key to find nice color palettes to like
Okay.
have different values, different saturation, and also like learning about color schemes. Like I think everyone knows like complementary color schemes and those. There are a bunch of these things, and if you know a little bit about color theory, it can help you creating nicer color palettes for sure.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about the books you've worked on. What's the experience like of actually seeing when you receive the final version of the book, of seeing something you created printed on a book that will probably a lot of people would read?
It's always super exciting. I'm I have been working on a book until December this last year, and I'm already looking so forward to the book because it's one of my favorite projects. And you always want to like know how the colors look printed because I think every artist is scared of seeing the colors and they look weird because when you paint, you only see them digitally on your screen and they can look quite different in print. And it also depends on the paper the publisher chooses. So they can look a little more saturated or a little bit more muted. And that's for me the most exciting part to like just have it in my hands and look at the illustrations and be sure it's like 100% the way I want it to look. But it's
Okay.
always super excited. And I kind of really like to have something in my hands. And that's so cool about children's books. You do something that a lot of people get to see and something you can hold in your hands that you can show people. I work so much digitally that I really enjoy doing some stuff that you can hold in your hands.
Yeah. Uh, was this like drawing for children's books? Was this like a dream of your career in your early days as an artist, or this just came along the way? Was this a dream or a goal you had?
When I was younger, I wrote a lot of stories. I also wrote like comic books, but like they didn't look good, you know. I was young, they didn't look good, but I had always fun in like storytelling, and I really enjoyed making my own characters and stories. So there was not directly the dream to become a children's book illustrator, but I knew I wanted to go into like the movie direction, or something that has like storytelling in it. And then when I did my 3D education, the goal was to work in a studio first. But yeah, then things changed a little bit, and then I went into children's book illustration. And I think I'm really happy the way things went, even though I didn't plan them. But I feel like this is the perfect path for me. I can still do some 3D animation. I'm still like working in the school. I'm still teaching modeling, which is kind of nice, and it's a cool like mix having 3D work and illustration work at the same time. But
Okay.
you can also like easily combine both. Like the skills that I learned for 3D are so helpful for illustration for me. Sometimes when I work with children's books, and there's like a very complicated building or background I have to draw, I use my 3D skills actually. I go and build like
Okay.
a very simple blocking in Maya, and I render it with like some super simple lighting, and then I paint over it. So I have a good overview from the perspective, and I know how the light falls. This is also very helpful for beginners when you struggle with like painting lighting, or with perspective. Of course, you should learn how to draw properly in perspective, but 3D can help a little bit if you want to work faster, for example, because with books, you have to be fast, and it's sometimes easier to have like a base mesh of your character so you can like rotate it and use every angle you need and just paint over it. It's definitely helpful. So my process is usually always working with 3D and then with 2D and then again with 3D. It's like a blend between those two, which is still kind
Okay.
of cool.
Yeah, I think your followers will enjoy to have the to see one of the comic books from your early days. Yeah, I think that would be
I
interesting.
don't think so. They don't
Uh,
look good.
I'll move to some of the questions that your followers asked you. How do you stay motivated during a long illustration project?
Oh yeah, that's sometimes hard. It's not so easy. As I mentioned earlier, I had a time last year where I felt not so good, where I had health issues, and where I had big projects. I had my own book coming up, and I had to do all the work, the writing, and it was so much more work than I expected in the beginning. Um, and I felt like so exhausted and uninspired for a while. And what I know from my past experience is to take breaks during those times when you just feel super unmotivated. So I said myself it's fine to take off for a few more weeks to recover. Inspiration will come back at some point. And it came back actually for me. I notice sometimes for me, I get my inspiration from so many things, like from watching movies, even from watching TV shows, or just from like going on vacation, or I don't know, reading a book, whatever, from so many things. And I felt like during this break, I was able to do these things again, watching TV, reading books, going out, and it helped me to get back my motivation. Well, it always depends. If you have like a big client project, you can take a break, of course, right? If you lose your inspiration during a client project, it's hard. You can take a break. But if possible, definitely a break helps. But during a project, I would say for me, I think everyone is different, but for me, it works best when I just push through, when I work better under tight deadlines, I have to say. And
Okay.
I really need to get into that story and focus 100% on that project, instead of like trying to take a lot of breaks or working less hours, because then I feel like, I don't know, I lose motivation on the project. And having really good focus on the project helps me a lot to wrap it up.
Okay. That's quite interesting of the perception you have on deadlines, because our first guest, Ian Spriggs, actually said that he really didn't like deadlines, and that's why he moved to work on especially personal projects, because when you work for a studio you have a lot of deadlines, you need to satisfy clients needs, and he didn't like that. But do you think that helps you like push yourself to get a result and get it done on time? That's what
Yes.
you like? Okay.
Yeah, it helps me for sure. I think if I have too much time, I'm definitely slower. And sometimes I'm thinking back then when I was working part time in a studio and when I had like 2 days freelance time at home, I was so productive. Like I used those 2 days so crazy much. I finished so much work during that time because there was so little time actually. And I think that's something that is pushing you. If you don't have too much time, you will be faster. And therefore, I think deadlines are important. And for me, it works always better to have like strict deadlines and yeah, not too much time. I kind of like deadlines. I don't know. For me, it works best. I also set myself deadlines. I'm a very like organized person, and I need to write me down when I have my personal deadlines for things, because otherwise, I don't know, it'll get
Okay.
messed up.
What's the most challenging project that you've worked on?
Let me think. I think it was challenging. I would say it was one of the toy design projects I did, and I think it was not directly challenging, but it was very different from what I do usually. I had to design toy characters that were like completely different to what I usually do, so I had to go out of my comfort zone to design these. They were like
Okay.
very different in shape, in the look, and also in the coloring style, because my just for fun coloring style that I do on social media is very like flat shaded and has a lot of texture. But these designs were very different. They had a lot of shading. They had lots of shadows and highlights. They looked a little more like 3D overall, which was very different to what I usually do, which takes also much longer to finalize. And it was a little harder to adapt to that style. But at the
Okay.
end of the day, I think it's really cool to have these projects that challenge you, because you get better from it, you get faster from it, and you learn so much from it, because the industry really requires being able to adapt different styles. Everyone is always like talking, oh, you have your art style and it's so important to find your own voice. It is kind of, but it's also so important when you work with clients to be able to change your style and adapt things.
That's interesting, because a lot of of your followers actually ask the question, "How did you find your style?" And and
I know
I
they always ask me that.
yeah,
That's the big question. Oh, I get this asked so many times, and I don't know. It's hard to answer that question because sometimes I'm not even sure if I have my own style, but other people seem to think that I have my own style, but I don't really see it that much. I
okay.
I think having your own style is something that comes on its own, because you start like integrating things you like into your designs. For example, we all have like artists we like, and there's like maybe that certain way a person draws eyes that we really like, and then we try to like integrate that into our artwork. It's not like copying an artist 100%, but it's like taking these things from all these different artists and putting them together, and this is the way you create your own style probably. But yeah, I think people should not focus too much on creating their own style. They should rather focus on becoming good at the fundamentals of art, and also like being able to work faster and adapt to different art styles.
Okay. Have you ever collaborated with other artists?
Yeah, kind of. I had some like client projects where we collaborated on some projects with Adobe, for example. I have a few like artist friends. Some of them I have met personally, some of them only like on Instagram, but we worked on a few things together, which is always kind of fun. And it's also cool to like meet these people in real life later. Most of
Okay.
the time you just like talk over social media, or like you watch those stories from these people every day, and then it's so cool to finally meet them in real life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Actually, the second most asked question besides the one about your style was actually life with bunnies and chickens. How's it like?
Really?
Yeah.
It's it's cool, but it's also a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I mean, I have quite some pets now. I started with like 3 chickens, and now I have like 7, and I have 10 bunnies, but these are not all my own pets, because I have like a little rescue mini farm in my backyard where I just rescue pets, and they usually stay or we find a new home for them. And it's a lot of work to care for them. And sometimes it's hard because I'm a freelancer. I mean, it's nice that I'm flexible. So whenever they need to go to the vet or so, I can just like go. I think I couldn't do it if I had a full time job. It would be super hard. But it's for me, it's like the hobby where I can recover from art, because when you do art so much you need a break, and this is kind of my hobby where I like calm down, where I get to do something else, where I move, because we sit a lot in front of a PC and on the computer, and it's kind of nice when you have like those 1 or 2 hours per day where you like take care of the pets outside, where you clean the garden, and it kind of makes me move, which is good.
Okay. Um, the last question from the followers was, have you always been able to make a living from your work, or have you had other jobs since the start of your career?
Well, as I said earlier, I had no, I was actually always working in illustration and in 3D art,
Okay.
that's for sure. But I had like 2 jobs at the same time, like having the studio job, the teaching job in the school, and then being freelancer. So sometimes I had quite some jobs at the same time, but they were always like creative jobs, designer jobs
Okay.
overall.
I want to apologize to your followers because they ask you a lot of questions, and I want to thank them, but I think time is important. So if I ask you all the questions, we will be here like three
Until
hours.
tomorrow.
So yeah. But I really want to ask you this because it was from one follower. What's your big dream? Like next, your next big goal or your next big dream?
um My big dream was working at Disney Animation back then, but it kind of changed for me, because I kind of feel like I found my home here. I found this place where I right now live, where I want to stay, where I feel comfortable. And I think my dream kind of shifted, because first it was like working at that studio, but right now it's like having this life I currently have, being a freelancer. I can decide which projects I work on. Um, of course there's also like hard times, but overall the positive side definitely is much better. And I really like having like this independency, and I think that is actually already the dream. And I'm kind of enjoying living the dream right now. Of course I have like smaller dreams now, and I'm trying to like work towards those smaller dreams. I always have new ideas what I want to work on. Like my next dream is to have a children's book that I wrote and illustrated, so both at the same time, which is already happening, but it's not published yet. And then also like creating my own courses that I sell online. Um, Things like, I was also like thinking about maybe one day creating a company for something. I'm not sure for what yet, but I had times where I thought like it would be cool to have a publishing house or something, because I work so much with children's books and I would really love to do something in that direction. So it's not like a big dream. It's like there are so many ideas in my head and I have to see which one I try to realize first.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. Um, Now it's time we do a little lightning round. I'm going to ask you like short questions and you just have to answer them in a short sentence or in a word.
Oh, I hope I'm good at this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, three things you've never drawn in your life.
um I'm not sure if there's anything that I have never drawn, but the things I rarely draw are cars, planes, probably buildings. It depends, but I've drawn buildings before, but very rarely. Anything technical like robots and stuff, that's something
Okay.
that I also don't enjoy drawing this.
Okay. How many animals live with you?
I have to count. 17.
Okay. Which one is your favorite? You can't lie.
Oh, that's mean. Well, from the chickens, it's my chicken Abby, and from the bunnies, it's the baby bunnies, Oliver and Flynn.
Hope they
But
don't
it's
get jealous.
hard. I like everyone.
Do you plan to grow your animal pet family?
No, not anymore. I'm like exhausted right now. But maybe at some point, if I had more space, but I'm kind of running out of space in the backyard, and there's a point where it's just like too messy if we have too many at one place. And if I ever get a bigger piece of land, then I'm open to like having horses and cows and everything. That would be amazing.
Okay. I think this is a right question for a German person, but wine or beer?
Oh, nothing. I don't drink. I'm the
Okay.
weirdest German person ever. I don't drink any alcohol. I
Okay.
can't choose between any of these. But if I had to,
Currywurst
probably I would
or
choose wine.
oh, okay. Currywurst or bratwurst?
You're asking this. I'm like a vegetarian, so.
Oh, you're
But I would
vegetarian.
say, yeah. It's
Are
a
there
hard
any
choice then, but
like vegetarian options for that type of food in Germany?
I'm just thinking about it. Probably there is a vegetarian bratwurst, but I personally don't eat like these fake meat things. I don't know,
Okay.
because then I could actually eat meat if I like the taste of meat. But for me, it's like I don't like the taste of most meat, so that's why I don't eat. But yeah,
Okay.
if I had to choose, probably bratwurst.
Is there a favorite like German dish or food that is of course vegetarian that you eat or
For me, it's like Grünkohl. You know Grünkohl? It's like kale.
okay.
It's, I know a lot of people don't like it, but it's like very green and healthy. But it's I love it.
Okay. Hot or cold?
Hard one. I would say something in between. But if I had to choose, I would say cold.
Do you have a favorite sport?
Mm, I have quite a few actually. Snowboarding, skiing, dancing, wakeboarding. Oh, there's so many nice things. I can't do all these things that I want to try out. I'm that person. I like to like test things and try a lot of different sports, but I don't have much time currently for sports with all the work and the pets and stuff. That's currently my hobby actually.
Okay. Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram, for sure.
Okay. Do you have a favorite sports team or a sports person?
Mm, no, no, I don't really have a favorite person.
Okay.
No.
What's one unexpected hobby of you?
Mm, probably skiing. I don't know if many people would guess it, but I
Okay.
don't live in the mountains, so I think it's kind of unexpected.
Do you have a favorite book?
If it has to be about animation, then it's Cartoon Animation by Preston Blair, because it was like one of the books that really inspired me when I was young. Back then, I had just a few books, and this was like the one I got recommended back then, and I like read over it 100 times. I
Okay.
learned so much from this one.
Name one guilty pleasure.
Mm. I don't know. Hmm. I don't have any. I don't know.
Okay. Name one artist that inspires you.
I would say Beatrice Blue is a big inspiration to me because she's always doing children's books and her color schemes always inspire me and the way she draws textures. Yeah, she's a big inspiration.
Name one book that every artist should read.
My book. No, I would say it's probably my favorite book, cartoon animation from Preston
Okay.
Blair, but also like the Animator's Survivor Kit. Oh, there are so many good ones. I
Okay.
think
And
everyone should have the essentials.
name one book that not an artist specifically, but everyone in general should read.
Mm, let me think. Just a regular book, right?
Yeah.
Mm. Let me think. I personally liked the book from Stephen Hawking's. I, in general, like all the books about him. That these are my favorites. I don't know if anyone should have read them, but I personally like them and I recommend them.
Okay. Well, moving on from the lightning round, we like saw your Dreambox, and we
This year.
want. It's quite amazing. Uh,
Yeah.
could you tell us like a bit about it? When did you decide to have it? How did that happen?
I actually had an older model of this one, a smaller one, when I still lived in my old apartment because I couldn't fit this huge thing in the room. But then when I moved here, I switched to the big one because I have so much art stuff. Like when I was a traditional artist almost all my life, and you have so much stuff when you work traditionally. And I needed a solution where I can put all these things in. So the Dreambox was literally perfect for this. And since I'm a very organized person, I really love that I can sort everything into like little drawers and hang things. And yeah, it's perfect for people who want to work organized. This way, you just don't like search for stuff because I have so many things, and sometimes I'm like, where did I put it? And then I know where it is because I labeled them, and it's so easy to like find everything. It's perfect. It's also really good for my like Etsy shop because I have like the right side organized with all the shop items, and the left side is all my art tools. So it's so easy to
Okay.
pack orders this way.
If you
But yeah,
had
it's
to,
amazing.
if you had to save only one item from that, from the whole Dreambox, the rest will go away. What would you choose?
Oh my god. That's really mean. What would I choose? Let me think. Oh, that's very hard. Probably my I have like a very small kit where I have my favorite brushes in and my favorite pencils. I would probably save that one. Because the
Okay.
prints I could reprint them. But I would choose this, yeah.
um, in your whole career or personal life, what's the best advice you've ever received?
I think it's not just one advice, it's like a couple advices. First one was from my art teacher who said, "Never fall in love with your artworks." I think at first I didn't understand what he meant, but now I understand what he means because this is what I explained earlier. Um, that when you draw things for clients, you sometimes have that one design you fall in love with, but it's important to not do that, because then you will kind of hold yourself back from getting better and making the other designs look better. And that's probably one of the advices that helped me the most, to not fall in love with my work and keep working on getting better.
Okay. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I still see myself here in the house with my pets. I see myself still as a freelancer. Probably I have my art shop a little more like build up. It's working probably a little bit better, because right now I don't have the time to focus on my shop. I don't have the time to like create new products, but I really want to do this more because I enjoy it, but I just don't have the time right now. And I hope that in 5 years I will have more income that comes like from courses and, yeah, things that I don't have to work on for so long. Like a children's book is taking me like 3 to 4 months, and it would be nice to have like other income sources that give me the possibility to do something new that I haven't done. And
Okay.
I really want to like do something else. Like I said, I have these like small dreams, and I kind of want to work towards them. And this is where I like see myself in 5 years, like maybe having two or three of them, and bringing them to life. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. Ian Spriggs, character artist, was our first guest, and we asked him to give us an out of context question for our next guest, which is you. So he asks you to name the top three artists of all time.
Wow, that's hard. Oh my god, I'm just not that person who has like a favorite artist, but for me, people that really inspire me are definitely Beatrice Blue, because she's like the children's book illustrator I talked about. She definitely inspired my work. I love the work from Ewan Earl. He has designed the backgrounds for Sleeping Beauty for the Disney movie, and I think his work is very inspirational. But of all time, who else? Now I have to think. Maybe. Let me think. I think Pernille Orum also inspired me a lot, because when I started social media, I think she was like starting social media 2 years or 3 years earlier than me, but she was like so pushing this, and she really got me working harder on social media and working on my portfolio. She was definitely an
Okay.
inspiration.
Okay. Now, please give us a question to ask to our next guest. We don't have it. We don't have him or her confirmed yet, but it could be about anything, just an out of context question.
Okay, then I would ask, um, which project is the person most proud of, and
Okay.
why?
Okay. Do you work whilst listening to music?
Mm, Personally, I don't like listening to music while working because I'm so focused. But sometimes I have something playing in the background that is like super like without voice, just instrumental stuff, because this
Okay.
helps me to focus. But I don't know, I get distracted from voice. So
Okay.
most of the time it's like very quiet stuff, maybe some like jazz or movie soundtracks that are just instrumental, something very like quiet. I can't work with music.
Okay. We're actually building like a playlist. But and you can add any song you like. It could be the ones you work with, only instrumental, or anything you like. What song will you choose for our playlist?
Ooh, hard one. Because I personally don't have that one song that is like the song to work to, but I would probably choose a movie soundtrack or something. Let me think. Maybe a soundtrack from like Interstellar. I think they had some really nice movie soundtracks.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Time. That's a really good one. Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. It's like not too intense, but you can also like play it very calmly in the background. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mike, I want to thank you for the whole hour we were here. Uh,
Thank you too.
I really
It
had
went by
a
so
nice time,
fast.
and yeah, but if there's anything else you would like to say to your supporters, to your fans, to your followers, or anyone, any artist in general listening to the podcast, the mic
Yeah,
is yours.
sure. Yeah. What I would tell anyone who's listening is that keep working on your dreams. Don't give up too early. It is a lot of work to become an artist. It's like a very rare job, especially here in Germany. It's much harder to find jobs. And I would say trust in yourself, work hard, and yeah, keep going. Don't get distracted and do what you want to do.
Thanks a lot, Mike. It was a pleasure
Thank
to have
you.
you as our as our second guest here at Render My Podcast, and to all those listening, please stay tuned to Rebus Farm social media channels, where we'll announce who's the third guest in this nice project that we really enjoyed that you are supporting. So, thanks a lot, Mike, and see you
Thank
next one, guys.
you. Bye bye.